Easy Tigers, my name's Tom Burgoyne, this is FX Logic and it is Saturday. So I have taken today to run through the pairs to see what we've got coming up. Now if you haven't seen my introductory video, I would urge you to do so because we're going to go through this like a whirlwind and you won't have a Danny LaRue what's going on. Alright, so take the time to look at my intro video and that will show you the methodology that I'm going to use to fly through these pairs. There's a lot of pairs to get through. I'm hoping we might be able to pull off, 3 or 4 trades ready for next week. Yeah, see how it goes. Alright, so without further ado, I shall open my platform. So, in going into my platform, we've got 2 tabs that I've set up. One's my watch list with all my pairs on it. This is what we're going to get through today, and the positions that are open. So this was opened on my introductory video because there was a trade there which was perfect for the taking, and it allowed us to look at my methodology in going into this trade. All right, so my watch list. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go into USD JPY. So I'm going to go in and it's on the daily. I've got my indicators set up from before, from my introductory video, which you'll need to watch to understand why my indicators are set up the way they are. And straight away we're going to look, right? So we're going to go low point to low point. So low, lower, low, low, lower, low, low, lower, low, right? So my histogram and my momentum is telling me the same as what my price is telling me. Okay, the top peaks, I've got a high and I've got a lower high. Got a high, lower high, high, lower high. So this is all concurrent. So nothing to see here, chaps. Let's move on. So pound yen. Let's open it up a bit so we can see what we're doing and bring it into view. And we go right. So what have we got here? So we've got the pound yen. So what we can see is the price action's going up. So we've got a peak here. So let's go from this peak here. In fact, actually, let's go from this peak here. So this peak here to this peak here. So we've got a high and we've got a higher high. We've got a high, and actually on the histogram we've got a lower high. On the momentum we've got a high and a high of the same value. So got a little bit of a signal, which is why it's gone down and taken this downturn, but nothing major. As you can see, it sprung back up. So let's go for this peak. So we've got this peak. So this peak is a high, and then we have a higher high. Histogram shows a very small high, and then a very small lower high. Same again. Got a high on the momentum and a tiny little divergence on the momentum, which gives us a tiny little signal, but nothing to worry about. So let's go into the 4 hourly just to see what that's doing. Because if we've got it on the 4 hourly and it's stronger, then we're looking at a potential good little trade. So we've got a high, and then we've got a higher high. So this peak to this peak goes up. This peak, as you can see by my dotted line, to this peak goes up. All right. Now if we was here and we was looking at this when it had turned, then we know it's going to go up because we know that this high is higher than this high. So we've got a high and a lower high, but we've got a high and a higher high and a high and a higher high there as well. On the histogram, it does show a high and a higher high. We've got a high and we've got a lower high. But the momentum's not showing us the same. So we've not got that definite signal in them 2 indicators. We've got it in one, not the other. So for me, it's not a strong indicator. So let's go back out. Let's go to AUD USD and go back onto the daily. Right. So we've got an upward trend here. Sorry about that. So we've got an upward trend here. And what we can see here is actually we've got a high peak, which we've got a higher peak around there. And then we've got a higher high. So the price range goes up. However, when we look at our histogram, the histogram goes down and the momentum goes down as well. So let's zoom into our 4 hourly to see what this is doing, because it could be a potential. So we go into our 4 hourly and we're looking at we've got a high here, which is our high on the histogram. So we've got a high and then we've got a higher high. We've got our high here, but we've got a higher high here. Same with the momentum. We've got a high here, but we've got a higher high here. All right, so let's look at our lows. So we've got a low here and a higher low, ever so slightly higher, and we've got a low here and a lower low. So we've got a bit of divergence there, and we've got the same. Well, it's not a divergence, it's roughly at the same levels. So that's telling me that actually this trade is not ready. It's probably still going to make another up move before it decides to come down. All right, so our 4 hourly is not giving us the convergence or divergence indication we would like to then investigate this further. So let's bin it off and move to the next one. So USD Chief. I don't really trade this a lot because it takes a lot of margin and you get little reward for it. However, profit's a profit. So let's go to this peak here. We've got a peak there. We've got a high. And we've got a lower high and an even lower high. And we've got the same letter high. You can just see a bit of green there. So a lower high and then it's almost in the red there, which is an even lower high as well. So the histogram's going the same direction. The momentum is going the same direction. You've got a high, and you've got your lower high, and then you've got your even lower high down here. So it's telling us the same thing. So let's look at the bottom. So at the bottom we've got this low peak here, which is telling us we've got a low. So we've got a low and a low, and then we've got a lower low. Right? We've got a lower low. Yeah, lower low. Right? So the histogram's there. And the histogram's slightly up. So we've got a bit of convergence there because the indicators are converging on the price. Yeah, they're moving towards each other. So we've got a momentum there, and that's actually showing a slight move up. So let's go to our 4 hourly. It's not a massively strong indication. It's only very slight. It's probably not something that's going to show anything up. So let's go and we look at, so we've got a high and we've got a high of the same value. Whereas here we've got a high in the histogram and we've got a higher high. So actually straight away what this is telling us is the market is in a position where it's going to start moving back up. All right, because it's showing that. So we've got on the momentum we've got a high. And then on that peak there, where is it? We've got a higher high. All right, so although they're the same value, the actual indicators are preempting that the market's going to move higher. So then we look at the bottoms. So we've got a low, which is this one here, and this one here, and then we've got a lower low. However, on the histogram, we've got a slightly higher low, and on here, we've got a slightly higher low. But as you can see, the market has then already pushed up anyway. So if we went on to the hourly, we'd probably find out that we've missed this trade. But it'd be good to look at anyway. So if we go here, we've got a low, which is our low here. And then it comes down again for a lower low, but this goes up to a higher low. And this goes up to a higher low as well. And if we had entered that trade at that point, then it would have been good. However, if you look at my introductory video, I said that we only enter when the stochastic is below the oversold line or above the overbought line. This isn't below the oversold line, which tells me that it's not a trade that we would have entered. However, it still looks like a good one, but we've got to stick to our rules, okay? Chances are this might even just pop up, touch the 200 moving average, and then come back down to try and retest this lower price. And it's in that coming back down that you will see a clear convergence showing that the market's going to change direction and push up. Okay, so go back to our daily just to check that we are correct in what we say. So we're expecting the market from the hourly to maybe just pop up and then come back down to retest the low, and then it's going to go back up, which would be concurrent with this because we've got our convergence on both our indicators. Okay, so we're on the daily. That's not really something we were going to pick up on, so we're going to move to the next one. And we're on Australian dollar CAD. All right. Now, just from looking at this is showing me that it's got quite a bit of potential. So we've got the trend lines, and it's moving within the trend lines that are completely parallel to each other. So it's moving up in a channel, and a channel is usually a correction, which is good. However, what we've got is we've got a high and a higher high. On our histogram, we've got a high. We've actually got a lower high. On here, on our momentum, we've got a high, but our momentum is a high of the same value, so it's not a terribly strong trade at the minute. So let's zoom into our 4 hourly, because we do have the divergence on the top peaks, but actually if we look at the bottom peaks as well, so we've got a low and we've got a higher low. So we've got our low and we've got a lower low. So it's showing divergence not just at the top but at the bottom as well. And it's the same here. On the momentum, we've got a low, and then the market moves down with even stronger momentum to the downside, giving us a lower low on the momentum when the price is showing otherwise. So we're actually kind of looking at that and thinking, right, that's going to go down. So let's go to the 4 hours. So we're in at the 4 hours. Let's open this up and bring this down. Sorry about this. It's right. So what we've got here is we can basically see that this is going in the up direction, right? Which we know anyway from the daily. We can see our highest peak is there, and then the price carries on going up. Now, if you've not really got any peaks, it's just kind of wobbling itself to the upside. But we've got a high peak there on the histogram, and then almost no peaks going along here. So as that goes up, there's actually no real give, tiny little peaks coming up. And the same here, you've got a lot of momentum there, but the momentum's really kind of tailing off. But it's not giving us a clear indication of divergence or convergence. So at the minute, this is probably a bit premature to go into this. So we won't go into the hourly because there's no point, but we will look and we'll go, right, okay, so, it's probably going to make another upside and keep going up till it probably hits the trend line, maybe even breaks the trend line and then comes back down, maybe. And we'll see an even bigger divergence on the momentum as well as the histogram, which will just give us a clear indication. So we're not going to worry about that right now. So at the minute, we've not got anything that looks promising, but we're just going to keep flying through. So this is the US CAD. So let's open it up. Let's spread it open a bit. And what we have here is we've got a peak here, got a high here. So we've got a high here, and then we go up and we've got a high of the same value and a high of the same value again. So what have we got with our histogram? So we've got a high of a value, and then we've got, it goes to low, right? So although that is slightly lower, the histogram goes lower, so does the momentum go lower, and that's that side of it. However, if we look at the bottom, we've got a low, got a higher low, which is the same here and the same here, and then it goes down to a lower low, which is the same here, same here. Nothing really to see here. This is just run of the mill. So we're going to dump this, move on. Let's see the next one. Euro USD. So what are we looking at? We are looking at a chart for Euro USD on the daily, and it is showing that we've got a peak here. All right, we've got a peak on the histogram, peak on the momentum, and then it goes to a higher high, right? So if we measure that, put our thing there, it's roughly about the same. It doesn't go higher, but then our momentum does go higher. So that's concurrent. What we now need to look at is the next one. So we've got our peak here, got our peak here, and then it goes to a higher high. So again, what we've got is the histogram goes up to a higher high, slightly, only ever so slightly, but the momentum doesn't. The momentum is showing divergence. However, we need both to concur with each other, so this is not a strong enough signal for us, so we're going to move on. Pound Australian dollar. Let's open this up a bit. And what are we looking at? So we're on a daily, yep, check. we've got a peak here, which is our peak there and our peak there, and then we've got a higher high, histogram goes low, and the momentum stays the same. So it's not a fantastic indicator. However, the market has moved nicely to the downside. But what we've got here is we've got our low. So we've got a low, or we've got a low here, which is the biggest part of the histogram. It's the deepest low of the histogram. However, on the momentum, it's not so much. Then it moves to a lower low, which so does the momentum. The histogram doesn't. So the histogram starts going up, and then when we hit this point here, which as you can see is just here, the market keeps going down in price, but the momentum keeps going up. So does the histogram. So what we've got is convergence. So we've got convergence in it coming down, but the market's going up. All right, so we can see that it's shot up there and it's consolidated there. So let's take a little look and go in on the 4 hourly, because this could be a potential. So we're in on the 4 hourly, and what have we got? So we've got a low, so we can see our low and we can see our low on the momentum, and then it moves up and then it comes down and consolidates. So this goes up into a higher low, so does the momentum, so does the histogram, and then it goes up and back down and tests that price area there, which the histogram is showing slightly lower, but the momentum isn't. So to be honest, for me, this isn't a trade. We've kind of picked something up on the daily, but when we go to the 4 hourly, there's nothing there. So that eradicates that, all right? And that is the purpose of zooming in and having a look in detail with your trades. All right, so we're going to go to the New Zealand dollar yen, and we're on the daily, all right? So here we go. We are showing an upward trend, all right? And we can look at that peak, and we've got a high. We've got a high on the histogram, high on the momentum, and it comes down, 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 down. Then it goes to this, and then comes up, and we go here. So this to this is down. Histogram peak to this histogram peak is down. Momentum peak to this momentum peak is down. However, from this peak here, we're starting to see a change in direction. Right, so the histogram goes down, right, while the price goes up. Momentum, the momentum kind of doesn't go anywhere, but then starts tailing off at the end. Which could be an indicator. So let's look at the 4 hourly. So we're going to go in at the 4 hourly, and we're going to pile through this fairly quickly, so I don't keep everyone's viewing pleasurable activities all held up. And we've got a height here, and we've got our height on the histogram and our height on the momentum. Okay. Then what happens is it goes down to this lower high, if you like, here. Okay. So when we look, yeah, it goes down to a lower high. Yeah, the momentum goes down to a lower high as well. All right. So let's look at the bottoms. So we've got our peak here. Let's go here. We've got a low histogram, and then from here to here it goes up to a higher low, which it does the same thing on the momentum, and it does the same thing on the histogram. So this isn't showing us a turn in the market yet. It isn't showing us a trade. So let's go Euro JPY, go back to our days. Oh my days. Right, and then we'll go through this one fairly quickly as well. All right. So just at first looks, we can see that there might be something. I'll go for it. So let's go from this point here. So we've got a point here, right? Go from here to a higher high. Go on the histogram, doesn't really go anywhere. On the momentum, goes to a higher high, right? So just looking at that, you're kind of thinking, well, no, that isn't really doing nothing. So let's go to our bottom bends. So we've got the two bottom peaks here. So let's go to our bottom peak here, and we go, right, we've got a low, and we've got a low. And then this moves up to a higher low. And then you go, right, okay, so this moves up to a higher low, but the histogram moves to a lower low. Now, because they don't both confer with each other, I'm not going to look into this any further, because I want my indicators to match. I want them to confirm with each other that, you know, it is what we say it is, and you know, your histogram can't be there without your momentum and vice versa. All right, that's not my strategy. So come out of that. Next one is my favourite, pound Kiwi. This bad boy can either make you rich or bankrupt you in a second. So tread carefully with this one and don't put too much on it, and always have your stops in place. All right. So right, what we're looking at straight away, we can see on the daily that we're going down. Right, but if we look at our histogram shows that it's going up. Our momentum shows that it's going up. Right, so good. All right, so let's take it from this low here. This low here is our biggest in-depth point on the histogram, and it's showing the strongest momentum on our momentum indicator. All right, so then we go to the next one down, and it actually shows that it's gone up. So it's showing convergence. Yeah. Then we go to our lowest low, and it's showing massive convergence from the top peak. Okay, so from the top, well, actually from the top peak is up here. No, it isn't. It's up here. So you've got the top peak. So from our lowest low here, you're actually showing good convergence. Yeah, because they're moving in on each other. So let's go to our 4 hourly. Judging by the spike and the upward run, we've probably missed it anyway. So let's go to our 4 hourly and take a quick goosey gander at what we got here. So on the 4 hourly, as I said, it's spiked up and then it's continued its rally upwards. However, on the 4 hourly, it's showing divergence. So we've got a high here, and we've got our high on the histogram, and we've got a high on the momentum. But as the price moves higher to touch this 200 moving average, the actual momentum of it is dying off. So the strength, the pressure of this trade is dying off, which is telling me that it's on the daily, it's showing that it's going to go up, but on the 4 hourly, it's showing me that short term, it's going to come back down. So what it's actually probably going to do is have a little retrace, come back down, and maybe settle on a Fibonacci ratio, or it's going to actually come down and retest this bottom. Okay, so what we will actually see on the daily then, if we go back, is a good little convergence of quite a strength. So this will come down and maybe create the same or a lower low, whereas our momentum will just stay flatlined, and our histogram will probably do the same, right? And then it will test this area, if not just about break it, and then it will fly back up again, right? So let's see where we go with that. I'd like it to break this low just to confirm that, you know, it's on its last leg and then it'll go up. But a lot of times they create what we call a double bottom. All right. So what I'm actually going to do with this is, it's a potential that I want to watch. So I've got Tom's watch list, which has got all my pairs in it, and then I've got my watch list, and I'm going to add it to that just so I can segregate the upcoming trades that I want to keep an eye on. All right. So my watch list, bingo, ringo. Next one, Euro AUD. So nice little one. It's fairly mediocre. You'll never be in trouble with it. It moves very slightly. So what we've got here actually is a classic example of what I was just talking about. So on the daily, we can see that we've got a low here, which is our lowest point here and our lowest point on the momentum. And then it goes to a lower low, but our histogram goes up and our momentum goes up. If you look there, this peak here is higher than this peak here. All right, and then it goes down for an even lower low where there's almost no histogram and there's no momentum left in this. And then what happens is the market peaks up and then it comes down to try and retest this area. Okay, so in retesting this area, see what I mean? Like there's no flat, it's kind of flat line there. And on the momentum, you've got a little dip that's actually higher than this one. All right, so what we do then is we go to our 4 hours and we go, right, okay, so let's go to our 4 hours and see where we sit with that. So we can see that it's gone up and then it's come down and what's happened is we've got our histogram tailing off, but our momentum's tailing off. So if we go into this last little bit here, we've actually got a mini divergence, right? So if we look here, we've got a low, sorry, and then a lower low. If we go here, we've got a low and then a higher low. On the momentum, we've got a low and then a higher low. So this tells us actually we've got a mini convergence, which is maybe going to push it up in the right direction again. Let's go to the hourly, because the hourly is where we obviously enter our trades. So what we've got here is we have got, let's take it from this point, or this point maybe, yeah, so we're not really showing anything on here on the histogram, but on the momentum obviously we can see the momentum dying off. All right, so we would wait for this to give us a signal that it was going to go up. So on the hourly, we'd watch this come Monday, Tuesday, you know, and it will then create a convergent pattern that would then land your stochastic oversold, and then bang, Bob's your uncle, it'd fly up. All right, so I'm going to actually add this as well to our watch list. These are trades that I'll be looking at throughout the week. Put it back on daily. Right, let's move on to our next one. So I'm not going to cover Bitcoin at the minute. AUD JPY. So let's look at AUD JPY. Right. So let's make it a bit bigger and let's make it a bit choppier. Right. So where are we going with this one? Okay. So we've got a low. We've got a low and a lower low, low and a lower low. We've got our low down here, and then it starts to move back up, which we can see, and it's concurrent with that. So we've got there, moves in the upward direction. The point here, that moves in the upward direction, and we can see that it does on the histogram as well. So it brings us up to really the high, which is at maybe this point here. So at this point here, we get a high and then we get a higher high. On our histogram, we get a high and then we get a lower high, and marginally on our momentum, we get a high and a lower high, and then it fires down momentarily, but because the signal isn't that powerful, it then tries to go back up, and yet again, it's exactly what I've been talking about. It retests the price of this. Right, so we've got a price test here, right? So what we call a double top. So let's go into the 4 hourly and see where we sit, because it's already made a bit of a downward move. So what we have is we have our peak, we have our high. So we've got a high, and if we put that there, that high, the histogram and the momentum is at the same level, right? So there's nothing there to look at. So let's work on this. This is going up. So what we have here is we have a low and we have a higher low. We have a low and a higher low. We have a low and a slightly lower low, slightly. But again, it's such a weak signal, it's not something to go on. But what we have then is we go from that low to this higher low, which then creates a more downward momentum. And here as well, it goes down. So it's actually showing divergence on that. Okay, so then we're going to go to our hourly, because we think, right, might have a little trade signal there. You know, they're both telling us the same thing. Yeah, not a strong trade signal, but they're both agreeing with each other. So they're being proactive in telling me that the market's going to move. So let's go to our hourly. Let's take a goosey. Right, so what we have here is nothing at the minute. So we've got a high, a higher high, practically the same value. Got a little bit of divergence there, and then it comes down. So we've called it at this point. So this is consolidating at the minute. However, it's not showing us a clear divergence or convergence from either peaks, right? So this would tell me that it is maybe going to make a move, but it's still going to mess about for a bit of time to see what happens with that. All right, so I'm going to add it to the watch list just so we can keep an eye on it. All right, so let's go euro pound. We go on the daily, and again, straight away we go in and we go, right, what have we got? So we've got a sideways moving market. That peak there should be the same as that peak there, but it's not, it's gone down. Then we go down to another peak, that's gone down. There's nothing really here. There's no divergence or convergence or anything like that. It's a sideways moving market. It's not really doing much at the minute. We can only really make money when markets move, you know, and you know, if they're going up or going down, and we catch them as they're going to turn, you know. So if you get a sideways moving market, it's, you know, you're going to cause yourself more hassle than it's worth, and you can have your money tied up for a long time watching it go sideways. So next, what are we on next? So pound USD. It's a nice little one to go on. So let's look at our peaks. So we've got a high, which goes to a lower high. High, lower high, high, lower high. Right, nothing special there. We have a low at the same level, low, or low, and then it goes up, right? But it's not opposite. It's just this has moved sideways, this has moved up, well, momentum has moved up as well. Then the market's carried on climbing. So let's go to the next one. So we've got a high here. We've got a high here. We've got a higher high. We go on there, histogram, we've got a high. And oh look, we've got a lower high. High, and then a lower high. However, then it makes a higher high again, and the histogram then actually has a burst of momentum and a burst of histo, and it's gone up. Right, so do I think there's a trade in that? Let's go to the 4 hourly and check, because we have seen a bit of a divergence there. So pound USD, let's look. So we've got high, high, higher high, higher high. Oh, and then actually a higher high, but we've got a lower high and a lower high on the momentum. So just this little bit here is actually giving us a strong signal. So we can see it's coming down, it's coming down. So then we go to the hourly, right? So let's go to the hourly. So what have we got on the hourly? So on the hourly, we've got a high, and we've got a higher high, got a high, and we've got a lower high, high, lower high. So this is showing us a good signal. So we're going, right, okay, so we're at that point where we think the momentum's died off, the histogram's died off. We need to now look at what's happened here. So if the stochastic at that point was in the oversold, the overbought territory, we would then look at putting the trade on, which we would have been successful. However, it isn't. So it's not within our strategy to do that. So what we will do is actually we will look for it to come back up and create even more of a divergence. So, you know, we'll be looking for this to do whatever it is it's going to do. You know, it might go up, down. It hasn't broken this point yet, so it's not confirmed that this is the end of the retrace. It could go up to say here, and then what we could have is a divergence going down if the histogram plays down and if the momentum plays down. So we'd have to watch that one and watch it play out. It's not, you know, the daily and the 4 hourly are good. We have it on the hourly. No, let's keep an eye on it, but it's not ready for a trade yet. So add to watch list, my watch list. So we've got another one in the bag. Right, so pound USD, let's go Euro CAD. Now the CADs move quite quickly, so be careful of these, but they're quite enjoyable because they're easy to look at and they're not very tricky. They don't put you into a false sense of security and then move the other way. They're quite good. So what we're looking at the daily. So let's look at the daily. Right, we've got a high, got a lower high. So we've got a high, I would say, yeah, we've got a lower high, high, lower high, and then we've got a higher high. So from there, from the lower high, yeah, it does go back up to a higher high, and the same with the momentum. So it's not really showing us anything. All right, we look at the lows. We've got a low here, and then we've got a higher low, but this shows a lower low, which would obviously be the reason that's pulled the market down, because it's preempted telling us that the market's going to go down. But then from this lower low, we then get a higher low, which if you look, this price has gone down beneath this price, but the momentum's gone up, but the histogram's still gone down. And then we've got an even lower low, the histogram's gone. So there's nothing here, right? There's nothing here. Let's move on. Australian, New Zealand. So let's look at this on the daily. What have we got? So we've got a high, lower high, lower high, lower high. Same, a little bit lower. And then it goes lower even still. However, from this high to this high on the histogram, it goes up. Same again here. So from this high to this high on the histogram, it goes up. All right. So it's showing us that the market actually has the potential to move up, because it's showing us that we're doing convergence. We've got convergence. All right. So let's take a look on the 4 hourly. So on the 4 hourly, what do we have? So we have an upward 4 hourly trend. So if we start at the bottom, we've got a low, then we've got a higher low, and then we've got an even higher low. So there's nothing there. That's normal. Let's look at the highs. So we've got a high, got a higher high, and then actually it goes up to what is meant to be a higher high, but it doesn't. It actually goes down. So on the daily, it's showing us it's going to go up, but on the 4 hourly, it's actually showing us that there's going to be a little downward move. So we need to wait for this downward move to play out. And yet again, as we've seen in quite a few charts, it's probably going to go down and touch this little level here. Just to go down, retest it, and then it'll be on its way. All right, and when it goes down to retest it, this will stay around here. The histogram, you probably won't even see it, and because it'll be more sort of like this, and then it will fly up. All right, so that one is good to watch, but we don't need to investigate it further because it's not ready. So I'll add this to my watch list. So we're getting a nice little collection now. So let's go to the pound CAD. Pound CAD is a good one, moves quite fast, so you need to be very cautious of that. You can get a lot of pips in the space of an hour. So yeah, be careful. So let's look at the daily. So we've got a high, we've got a high. We've then got a lower high, we've got a lower high, and then it goes up again to a high. All right, so histogram levels are about the same, momentum's about the same. So as far as I can see, there's nothing really happening. Where it did happen was maybe here where you had divergence and here where you had divergence, you know, so it's gone up, it's gone down, and then the market's shot down here, all right? But again, not a massively strong signal, so let's see where we go. Let's go back. Right, New Zealand Euro. So here's a good one. Straight away I can see that we have a high and a higher high. We have a high and a lower high, a high and a lower high. All right, but then the market's already impulsed down and retraced back up. So let's take a look at the 4 hourly, see where we're at. I think we've probably might have missed this one, but it's good to go through the ones you missed because it just means you can test your theory and see if you was right. So then we go and we look at the 4 hourly. So the 4 hourly for me, it's let's go to this peak. In fact, let's start at this peak. So this peak is a high. This peak is a higher high. And what we've actually got, it's classing this is the highest peak in terms of your histogram and your momentum. and then it would have gone up again, and there's no histogram, and the momentum's next to nothing. So at that point, you would have seen that, it would have come down, and then you would have seen that, you know, if we're about there, and you'd have gone, right, okay, so it's making a higher high, however, my histogram isn't going up, and neither's momentum. So you go, right, and that's on the 4 hourly, so good. On the 4 hourly, so let's take that, when was that? 11th of Jan at 4 o'clock. So then we go, right, let's go to the hourly. Right, so you go, right, let's go to the hourly, see where we're at. So 11th of Jan. Right, so what we're looking at is this section here, right, where we would have gone, right, so it's going up, so go, right, we've got higher high, higher high, higher high, so the momentum's just basically staying the same, higher high, nothing's really happening, right, lower low, lower low, so you're not actually getting anything from this because nothing's really happening, you know. The only time it does happen is obviously this peak here. From that peak to that peak, it's showing that the market is going to change direction. Yeah, which it does. It then goes up in that direction. So although we would have looked to enter there, we would have not had a clear signal to enter, so we wouldn't have entered. And to be honest, it's not a bad thing because it hasn't impulsed down, it's just kind of come down and moved sideways, you know, so it is a fair chance it could go back up. But on the daily, certainly on the daily, it's showing that the market's going to actually go down. So what we will do is, that's probably a long time off because it's already impulsed down, and we'll just have to keep an eye on that and watch it and maybe reevaluate it next week and see where it is. Anyway, moving on to the next one. So where was I? Pound CAD. So we go CAD JPY. And what I'm looking at here is a high, high, higher high, yeah, higher high, same with the momentum, high, higher high, and then it goes down and it's consolidated, and then it's going to go down again. Right, nothing there. So let's go to New Zealand USD. So what we're looking at here, so we've got an upward momentum, however histogram's going down, momentum's staying the same, nothing really is changing. There's nothing there, there's nothing on that one. See, once you know what you're looking at, you can kind of look at it at a glance and quickly pick up whether it's worth investigating or not. So what are we on here? Euro Chief. So Euro Chief, we're showing a high, then a higher high, and then a higher high. We've got a high, and then we can just about see it, but on the momentum we've got a high, higher high, and a higher high. Alright, so this is probably going to carry on its upward direction. There's no turn in the market. So, right, pound African rand. Now, this moves a lot of pips very quickly. So, it's probably not one that you want to go on. It's, as you can see, you know, the price per pip would be a lot. It would take up a hell of a lot of margin, more than what we've got, but it is quite a good one to watch and practice on because it does give you a lot of divergences and convergences a lot of the time. All right. For example, here, so you got here, higher high, higher high. When we look here, there, low, there, low. We would have gone into it on our 4 hours, we'd have investigated it a bit more, and then you go into it even more so where you go, right, so then we've got high, higher high, high, lower high, high, lower high, and you kind of go, right, okay, so at this point, I'm going to then go into my 4 hourly. So my 4 hourly, and so the 4 hourly would have been about there, and then you would have just looked into it and kind of seen where you're going to go with it. So let's go here. We've got a high, and then we've got a lower high, and then a higher high. So a high, lower high, 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 lower high, higher high. And then what we've got down here, low, high, low, low, high, low. Okay. So I'm sure, you know, if we'd have looked into it properly, you know, we would have probably found the entry point somewhere. But I don't want to concentrate too much on pound ZAR because you're not going to trade it. Trust me, you're not. If you do, you might lose your account fairly quickly. So what we've got here, New Zealand CAD. So this is the one that we went into on the introduction video. And the reason, I'll just recap of why I went into it on the video, is because it's a very strong indicator that, you know, this is going to move to the downward side. So we've got a high, got a high, got a higher high, but we've got a lower high. High, lower high, high, lower high, high, higher high. Right, we've got a low, 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 low on the histogram. We've got a higher low in the price range, but on the histogram we've got a lower low. On the momentum we've got a lower low. So this is showing in two places that we have got clear divergence, right, on the uppers and the lowers. Right, so then we go into the 4 hours and we go, right, well, let's look at the 4 hours then. Let's zoom in a bit on this and see where we are. So we go, right, okay, so we've zoomed in and we're going to look at this section here. Right, this is what matters. It's the last little bit. So we've got a high, we've got a high, we've got a higher high, we've got a lower high, high, lower high, high, lower high, high, higher high. Right, okay, so this is again preempting that the market's going to dip down, right? So then we go, great, right, let's now look at the hourly. Hold on, where are we? Let's look at the hourly. So let's open this up a bit. And we go, right, let's have a goosey gander. Where are we? So we've got a high and a lower high. So we've got a high and a lower high, which is fine, high and a lower high. So they all match, so there's nothing special there. So let's go on the bottom ones. So we've got a low, and then we've got a higher low. So the price range moves up on the lows. So we've got a low, and we've got a lower low, low, and a lower low. So on the lows, we're actually showing the indication that this is going to diverge, it's going to go down, right? So it's preempting on the hour as well that this is going to go down. Now, just before the close of market, we saw it cross into the oversold territory, right? So the oversold territory there, and that's kind of where we put our trade on, because we go, right, okay, so it's now oversold. We've got the clear indication on the daily, the 4 hourly, and now the hourly that this is going to reverse. We can put our stop above the previous high, and we just see where we go. We went into money management. We decided that we was only going to risk 250 odd quid out of 10 grand, and that was our money management. You only risk what you can afford to lose, right? So your stop, you've got to calculate where to put your stop, and I've covered all that in the video, in the introduction video. So if you haven't watched it, you really do need to watch it. Anyway, that is me. I've been through the pairs. So let's have a little recap in my watch list. So let's go my watch list and see what we've got. So here, oh bloody hell, there's more in there than I thought there was. I obviously didn't clear that out before I started. So we've got the ones that I said. However, I'll look into that and go through it and delete the ones that are not meant to be in there. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And as I say, I'm not a professional trader. I'm an engineer by trade, so I do this for fun. And I've just found a way to be consistently profitable that I thought I would share with you. So subscribe to my channel. Keep watching all my videos that come out, and I think you'll be amazed at how quick this 10 grand grows and how fast we move forward with it. And hopefully we can become a great community that we can all bounce off of each other and have a little fun and earn a bit of money in the process. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you in the week.